Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Fitness to Influence. Today I'm diving deep into a topic that might surprise some of you: health advice I no longer give. Over the years, I've learned so much, and some of the things I used to believe and pass on has evolved. I want to be transparent and share why I've changed my stance on certain recommendations so you can benefit from the most up to date healthy practices. So let's get into today's episode. I had a whole YouTube video on it's how to avoid binge eating, but really it was just essentially a video on how to distract yourself from binge eating, how to avoid it. I used to say, if you're hungry, paint your nails, have some air popped popcorn, read a magazine, like take a bath. They were just very weird suggestions. It was like one of my first YouTube videos, and these were all actually tips that I read myself in researching the video that was in Women's Health Magazine and in Fitness Magazine. The ideas were to prevent overeating. Mind you, most of us were probably trying to eat 1,200 calories diets at this time. But here's the thing: I have since realized that this advice was very flawed, and you listening probably know this as well. If I have a client that is binge eating after dinner, most of the time, this is their body's way of telling them something, telling them that they are not eating enough. If you are truly hungry, it means that your body needs fuel. And depriving yourself, especially if you are restricting calories too much, can actually trigger overeating later. That's that binge eating that in the video we were trying to prevent. For people who struggle with binging, however, it's not about willpower to stop. It's more about getting professional help from a therapist who can help you address the root causes. But for many of us, we were just restricting our calories too much during the day. So therefore, after we would eat dinner, we would have these, insurmountable sugar cravings. And it was like, oh, I don't have the willpower not to like snack after dinner. But in reality, the issue was that we just weren't eating enough. And there's some research to back that up. Chronic calorie restriction can lead to overeating and binging episodes, as shown in studies like the Minnesota starvation experiment. It was an experiment they did around 1944 during World War II, which demonstrated the psychological effects of prolonged food deprivation. I'm not going to go down this study hole for today's episode, but if you are interested, you can research that, the Minnesota starvation experiment. But basically, if you severely restrict yourself and you're trying to diet, it's not about willpower at the end. Eventually, you are going to go overboard. So if you're someone that has this type of a tendency in the past, make sure that you are eating enough throughout the day to make sure that you are not genuinely hungry. Second piece of advice: I've got some great classic YouTube videos with my friend Katrina over on diet.com, and we are sharing these different recipes that have a lot of artificial sugars like sucralose and aspartame. I used to recommend using these artificial sweeteners as a way to cut calories. I thought they were better alternatives to sugar at the time. Well, I have done a complete 180 on this, and now I recommend that my clients all avoid them. There are very few foods that I put off limits for my clients, and artificial sugars are one of them. And here's why. Studies have shown that artificial sweeteners may negatively impact your gut health, increase insulin resistance, and even contribute to weight gain over time. Sucralose, in particular, has been shown to alter gut bacteria, which can lead to dysbiosis and inflammation. Aspartame has been linked to metabolic issues, headaches, and even anxiety in some people. Okay, and then here's a study. In 2014, a study published in Nature highlights that artificial sweeteners could disrupt the microbiota and lead to glucose intolerance. And more recently, the WHO, the World Health Organization, issued guidance to limit the use of aspartame due to potential carcinogenic risks. Studies show that sucralose isn't as inert as we once thought. It can actually disrupt that microbiome, which is essential for your digestive health and overall well-being. In a 2008 study published in the Journal of Toxicology and Environmental Health, researchers found that sucralose significantly reduced the number of gut bacteria by up to 50%. This dysbiosis in the gut can lead to a host of problems, including inflammation, poor digestion, and even weight gain. This is why when you sign up with me as a client, one of the number one things I say is to get rid of the artificial sweeteners. There's more studies as well that suggest sucralose might increase insulin levels, which defeats the purpose, right, of using it as a sugar substitute. For people trying to lose weight or manage their blood sugar, this is a huge red flag. Aspartame is another artificial sweetener that's come under scrutiny. Some studies suggest that it could even negatively impact brain health and even cause mood disorders in sensitive individuals. I actually just heard this on a podcast with Kristen Cavallari and Dr. Amen. A 2021 study published in the journal Nutrients found that aspartame consumption was linked to anxiety behaviors in animal models. They were mice, if you want to know specifically. The International Agency for Research on Cancer recently classified aspartame as possibly carcinogenic to humans based on limited evidence. While the full impact of these sweeteners is still being studied, my stance is clear. It's better to avoid them. I would rather my clients have a little bit of the real thing. Opt for natural alternatives. You can also do a little bit of stevia. You could do a little bit of monk fruit. Right now, we believe that they are safe and healthy, but who knows what happens in a few years. So, personally, I do have a little bit of stevia in some of my protein powders, but for the most part, I would rather just have real sugar, real honey, real maple sugar. I am not afraid of a little bit of sugar because I have it in moderation and I usually have it with, other foods that have full fat and carbohydrates and fiber so that I do not get the blood sugar spike and crash that can lead to you feeling a lot of brain fog, really tired and gross. One thing to note is that aspartame is in almost every single piece of chewing gum, unless it says, at least the sugar-free kind, unless you got it at Whole Foods. Splenda is in a lot of protein powders. It's in a lot of calorie-free drinks, including Prime, which is a favorite among the adolescent boys that I know. Tommy and Connor always want Prime. Their friends will be like, "Oh, I like Gatorade. I like Prime." To be honest, they're both kind of shit. And I would love for a better alternative to come out. I don't know if there is, maybe there is, but it's not super popular yet. So waiting for the 8-year-olds to think that a healthier alternative is cool. So maybe that's what I should be doing instead of doing a podcast. Let's go to number 3, shifting from all hit for calorie burn to muscle building. Okay, so I used to think that you needed to burn a ton of calories during a workout for it to be a workout, to be effective. As such, a lot of my workouts that I posted here on YouTube and that I taught at Barry's Bootcamp, the goal was to have my clients leave a session feeling like they had torched hundreds of calories and were just spent. Like they really just worked hard. Here's what I've learned, and the science backs this up, is that calories burned during a workout are not the most important factor. Now, I focus more on strength training and building muscle. So here's why. Because building muscle has a long-term effect on metabolism, more muscle means your body burns more calories at rest, which is far more effective for fat loss and overall health in the long run than simply trying to burn calories during a workout. Research shows that after about 20 to 30 minutes of HIIT, cortisol levels start to rise, which can lead to fat storage, especially in the abdominal area if you're doing it too frequently. Okay. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research showed that while HIIT can be effective in short bursts, too much can actually stress the body and lead to increased inflammation and potential muscle loss. Now, I do HIIT twice a week for 20 to 30 minutes, and I focus the rest of my time, the other 3 days, I'm largely just doing strength training. This is what I recommend to my clients as well. This is what we're all doing. Strength training not only builds muscle, but it also supports joint health, balance, and longevity, especially for women over 40. Research shows that resistance training improves your bone density, combats age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, and boosts metabolic rate effectively than cardio alone. And if you guys want to hear a little bit more about that study that was done in 2015 with the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, they found while HIIT is great for cardiovascular fitness, frequent sessions can raise cortisol levels, contributing to fat storage. So I know everybody's obsessed with cortisol right now. And so if you are watching this and you're someone that's going to Barry's Bootcamp or Orange Theory or whatever your workout class is, and every class your heart rate is getting really high and every class feels really intense and you can't lose the weight, ding, 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 ding. you might be doing too much HIIT, okay? Resistance training significantly improves lean muscle mass and metabolic health, especially in perimenopausal and postmenopausal women. These are just some of the biggest shifts that I've made over the years. I used to be really into running, and then when I wasn't running, I was doing these HIIT workouts. I looked back at one of my labs and my thyroid was just the levels that came back regarding my thyroid function were not good, but they were still normal. And nobody said anything to me. But I remember just always being tired, always feeling inflamed. I just like, my whole world revolved around burning calories. And then I would be hungry and I wouldn't be able to stop eating because I wasn't fueling myself. And it kind of just contributed. It was just this like circle, like, I wouldn't eat very much to lose weight. And then I would exercise a lot. And then I would be hungry. So I would overeat. And then I'd wake up the next morning feeling really bad. So then I'd exercise again to try to make up for that. But then I wouldn't be able to eat the 1,200 calories because I was genuinely hungry. It was this terrible cycle. In the early days of YouTube, you guys may or may not know this, we were under a lot of scrutiny. It was still those late 2000s where the standard of beauty, the ideal of beauty was still very, very lean and thin. We had not yet shifted into the stronger, more muscular ideal. And a lot of us who were early in YouTube were, I don't want to use the word victim, that's not the right word, but we were definitely subjected to really harsh criticism from people on the internet from early on. My YouTube comments are still probably the most negative comments that I get. I have this nice, healthy spot for myself in my community on Instagram. But for some reason on YouTube, people just feel the need to tear other people apart. And our weight was always scrutinized. I never felt like I was skinny enough to be like a popular fitness YouTuber. Not that that was like an aspiration because at the time that wasn't the goal, but I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to be a successful YouTuber because I'm just never going to be skinny enough. All these people don't think that I'm a good role model. Like nobody wants to look like me. And, it was a very negative place to be in the beginning of the world of YouTube with fitness space. I've heard Cassie from Blogilates talk a little bit about it on other podcasts as well. And it just seems like we all were kind of in the same spot. We all just felt really bad about ourselves and we constantly just felt like we weren't good enough for everybody. And everything that we did was to try to burn more calories, eat less so that we could be smaller. And we've all shifted our mentality, our routines, our diets, our workouts to now be more about overall health and wanting to be strong and glow up, as they say, age gracefully and, be a strong grandma. I have little kids and I aspire to be a superstar grandma who can take care of my grandkids. That's what I want. I want to have an amazing relationship with my kids right now, but I also want to be able to be there for them when they have kids and support them. These are just some of the biggest shifts that I've made over these past few years. It's important to keep learning and adjusting based on what works for you. This is all about consistency. It's not about short term goals. So, whether for you guys listening to this, maybe you identify with some of these things, maybe you're like, I have really been restricting how much I eat. And when I eat more carbs during the day, I don't crave sugar as much and I don't feel like I have, a binging episode. Or maybe you realize, wow, more HIIT isn't going to help me lose weight. I need to actually focus on just doing strength. I don't necessarily need to worry about the calories that I burn during my workout. And that might help you finally bust through that plateau, feel better, finally lose the belly fat. Nutrition and exercise are sciences and they're always evolving. And I always tell my clients I reserve my right to change my mind if a new study comes out tomorrow. This is where I'm at. These are some of the 3 biggest changes that I've made, and I push onto my clients and encourage them to listen and follow. My goal as a mom is to have a healthy relationship with food and exercise so that I can pass that down to my special little one who has joined me for this end. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Fitness to Influence. Make sure that you follow this podcast. And if you loved it, make sure to leave a rating. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week. Bye now.